Hi, I'm Sharon Spangler. Welcome to this Council Connection. I'm here at Reno City Hall right now with Dan Gustin. He represents Ward 1 of the City of Reno, so I thought we'd talk about a few items that involved your ward of the city. That's a lot of southwest Reno and downtown. What exactly are the boundaries?
Yeah, a piece of downtown. It's changed a little bit. The boundaries are going to change once again because I'm on the subcommittee that we have to realign our wards. We all have to be within 5% of one another in terms of residents. So I'm a little bit out of line right now. I'm 17% less than what I need.
Oh my goodness.
So there will be some boundary adjustment. And we don't know what that, we haven't sat down. I have no preconceived ideas. I suspect, Sharon, that it'll probably continue down southwest. Sharon Zadra and I, our boundaries intersect one another, and so does Dave Iazzi in the northwest, except Dave also has to increase. Last time we realigned, I took some of Dave's ward, which was then Ward 5, and the boundary line was adjusted to Ward 1, and now Dave has to adjust, and I think his might go a little bit north, mine go a little south, so right now it's kind of hard where the boundary lines are, although I do go down, I do go down Virginia Street from California to Plum Lane, and then over to McCarran, back up McCarran, jog a little bit into the northwest. That's the one time I do cross the freeway, and then come back down and down Virginia Street for a little while, and then down Arlington. So it's basically, as you said, old southwest, but it jogs around a little bit.
So I think sometimes people wonder that why a district or a ward looks the way it does, and it's because of populations change, people move in, people move out.
Exactly. We have the 5 wards, and we have an at-large representative and obviously the mayor, and neither of those represent a particular constituency, although we represent the entire city. It's just so that we would have people in wards designated in an area, so we wouldn't have, for example, 5 council people all coming from DeMonte Ranch or some other place. Although in the reality of it, and I know there has been some legislators looking at, well, why wouldn't you only be elected in your ward? And what happens is when there's an election, the people run in their ward for the primary. But in the general election, they're elected by the city. And I do support that, because even though I pay particular attention to what happens in my ward, and people have a person to go to if they live in the boundaries of Ward 1, we represent the city. And I've done that many times with things that are in Dave Iazzi's ward, because it's for the benefit of my ward and the city. So I think that when you represent the entire city, you're not only doing things specifically for a small group of people, which you could consider your ward being, but you have to do it and you have to look at that as the entire constituency, and that's how I look at it.
Well, there's so many issues that cross boundaries. You've got the streets, and then whatever you do in downtown Reno with big projects impacts economically the whole entire city. So there's just all kinds of things that cross over.
Take one example, bicycle paths. I mean, we kind of started, though, they've been around the city, but this new initiative that has gotten some traction, if you will, from the RTC and the city of Reno has been predominantly in my ward. Although now we just had a meeting a couple meetings ago about going down Plumas, and there were some pros and cons on that. And I didn't necessarily support it, but I want to see what's going to happen, and the RTC is going to come back with a plan, because when we put the original plan together, we were coming from 4th Street down Mayberry and to California and then to Arlington. We looked at Arlington and from the river going south, and that restriping done on Arlington Avenue, and there was some resistance, and I understand that. There's always some resistance, but I will tell you, after it's been done, and as I've told people when we started, it's only paint. If it really doesn't work, we'll come back and adjust it. Well, so far we haven't had to adjust it, even though there's still some people who are not happy about Mayberry between McCarran and the shopping center, if you will, as you come east. But it is working for the people who live there and the people who live on Arlington. Repeatedly, people have told me, gee, it slowed the traffic down a lot on Arlington. We seem to have less traffic noise. One of the considerations I heard when this was going on was people taking their children to school at Mount Rose School, which just celebrated its 100th anniversary or birthday. Right. And there's no more crossing guards. When you and I were going to school, there were crossing guards, and it slowed the traffic down. And we do have the lights, the signaling 15 miles an hour, and that has helped out. But it has also slowed traffic and made it safer for the general public.
Well, I'll tell you, as we shared, I was training for a marathon and one of my routes was down Mayberry, and I was amazed at all of the bicyclists that are using that because they're going out to, Mogul and Verdi, and I think it's been really well received, at least by people who are out there on their bicycles.
Yeah, I think the bike people have accepted. I know some of the other people say, well, I hardly ever see bikers there, and I think of that almost like Sierra Spirit, the bus that goes downtown. I know I frequently see it and say to myself, why are we supporting this and why is this going on? Because many times I see it empty, but there are times when there are people in there, and it's the same thing with the bike lanes. It depends on, it's kind of subjective, and I understand that, it depends on when you're there, but we'll see more of it. Now, as the year goes on, we'll see less of it because weather's a factor.
Right,
when you start to get snow and rain, it's not the safest way to go.
I think people have gotten used to California Avenue now.
I think so. When you look at it in the evening, from the river to California, going south, and going east-west on California around drive time, which would be considered somewhere a little bit before 5 to maybe 5:20, 5:30. Yeah, you can wait a signal or two. And I know that's exasperating. I understand that. I mean, I don't like to wait for a signal, but it's only a brief period of time. There may be a little bit of that in the morning. I know around Reno High School, I think the RTC did a great job in solving that problem, because when I was dealing with them, we were talking, when that bend comes, it becomes Mayberry into California, and they talked about putting bike lanes, and I said, between Hunter Lake and the bend in the road there where it becomes California, you just can't do that. Those are, I think we talked about this before.
Right.
People have their houses there, and they're entitled to parking in front,
right.
but they worked it out. And then especially going up the hill, I thought that was a great solution, where the two lanes merging into one, and there was some confusion to start with, but people have handled it very, very well.
That's my route home from work, and I have thought it was great. I didn't really have any complications with it. I hated all the construction that was going on, of course, everybody does. But now that it's all done, I think it's a nice, positive thing, and Mayberry looks fabulous.
I think it is too, and overall, when you look at it, and my view from 10,000 feet or 50,000 feet was that we're looking at a lifestyle on how we live here, and that's why people are moving here. They're not moving so much for the tourism anymore. It's a lifestyle. People are moving away from certain places because they don't like the lifestyle there, and I think we are reinventing ourselves with our lifestyle and our outdoor activities. We talk about special events. Well, the majority of special events are in the summertime when you can be outside. There are just so many things happening in this northern Nevada area, and certainly Reno, which we love to live in, has become a different lifestyle for people than it was 20 years ago. And I think it's very positive.
I think there's a lot of people in this community who really think in terms of a healthy lifestyle. They're getting out more, they're working out, they're doing things with their families that are recreational activities, they're eating better. Look at all the farmers markets that are propped up, and it's just amazing.
I'll tell you another story. When the air race tragedy, on the week that happened, one of the stations asked that I come by and do their morning show and talk about the memorial in the park. And so I had to be there a little bit before 5 o'clock in the morning for their early show. And it was dark, and the representatives, the reporter and the camera person from the station were there, and I were there. There were three.
Channel 8.
It was Channel 8.
Over in Idlewild Park.
It was Colo Television. We were in Idlewild Park, and there were three of us were there. And it was dark. I mean, we saw one another. And it's interesting, as the morning went on, 6:30, 6:45, the people that were walking and running in Ottawa. And I had not seen that because I don't go there that time of the morning. But we're talking about bicycles. It's not only bicycles. You talked about lifestyle. People were of all ages walking and running in the park as daybreak started, and until I left about 7 o'clock, there were people there, and I was surprised how many.
Well, that segues into our next discussion, because we're going to talk about urban forestry, which is another thing that's close to your heart. You're the liaison to the Urban Forestry Commission for the City of Reno. For our viewers, maybe just a little bit, give us a little bit of the history of that and what their mission is.
Well, the Urban Forestry Commission is pretty interesting. When I joined the City Council almost 6 years ago, there was a recommendation, I think I've mentioned this before, but a recommendation from a study being done that certain commissions to save money for the city need to be eliminated, and urban forestry was one of them. And I asked the council to give us 6 months to prove to everybody and the city that they should be kept. And the members of the urban forestry at that time said, we don't want to go away. They're people that are gardeners and our foresters, and you know, they just have a real interest in the well-being and the trees in our city. And we are a Tree City USA. And to have a Tree City USA designation, which we've had now for 27 years, with oldest and longest in the state, for 27 years have a Tree City designation. A lot of people don't know that. You have to have an Urban Forestry Commission. So the threat was, if the commission goes away, then our Tree City designation goes away. And you know, the stories that have been written and all the great stories about the city of Reno, Trembling Leaves, the book was written, pay tribute and homage to the trees and the great greenery around our city. So anyway, they had a new mission to stay involved, and they did stay involved. And
stay alive.
Yeah, stay alive, exactly. Water them and they shall grow. And they stayed alive. And the Urban Forestry Commission, on Shade Tree Week and Arbor Day, they have events every year. They also, during the January-February period, bring people to town for seminars, and people study the different aspects of the Urban Forestry Division in Reno and how they can help and so on. For continuing education credits is one of the other reasons they do that. Well, in October of every year, we have Shade Tree Week. And the commission gets together and they do a lot of planning and they do a lot of work, and we're going to plant 25 trees.
Wow.
at Comstock Park. Exactly. It is a real wow. And it's a cooperative effort. You have AT&T who provides the trees, and remember, we're in the recycling program, the phone book recycling with AT&T. They take that and the amount of phone books that come in, they determine how many trees the Urban Forestry Department will get, and we're getting 25 trees as part of that, not the whole thing, but 25 trees as part of that, and they will be planted. The staff and crew will come out, and Keep the Truckee Meadows Beautiful has been a great partner for the Urban Forestry Commission. They're people who really, they do what they say they're going to do. They put their money where their mouth is, so to speak. They are a great partner with us and working with us. Damani Ranch will have some of their cheerleaders.
I know, isn't that fun?
A group of people or kids come by, and the cheerleaders are going to be, it's going to be in that part of town. We talked about doing things earlier in different wards in town. It's not in my ward, and we've had them in my ward at Hunter Lake School and other places, but it'll be down south this year, and it'll be in October, and the Urban Forestry members will be there. The Keep Truckee Meadows beautiful people will be there. It's just really a nice thing, solidifying the planting of trees and the health of trees and doing the things that are good for the city, and that's what the Urban Forestry Commission does.
25 trees, that's pretty dramatic. That's going to have a big impact on that park. That's amazing.
It is going to have a big impact, and you know, we have, with the trimming of staff, if you will, there are 4 people in the Urban Forestry Department that will be available to help out. There'll be some digging by the individuals that will be there, but you know, it's all preset by Steve Churchillo. He directs the Urban Forestry Division, and they do a great job in doing it, and his guys, it's always a pleasure to work with them because they have it totally organized. When you get out there on the day in October that they're going to do it during Shade Tree Week, it's always well done.
That's excellent. I know the Urban Forestry Commission does something else in the springtime. I think they do one of the
Arbor
home
Day
shows where they go and have a booth, and then they do the Arbor Day.
They do Arbor Day, the home show, they have a booth. They're always giving seedlings away and giving instructions because they're with the water the way it is, you know, we used to plant just anything. And now they say that drought-tolerant trees and other trees that don't require as much water, that we try to educate, or the Urban Forestry Commission, not certainly I in my bailiwick, but the Urban Forestry Commission tries to educate the people about the things that will proliferate and grow and be better for their gardens. And again, always considering the water conservation that takes to grow a tree, considering what you need to use and what you shouldn't use and what you should and shouldn't plant. There are some trees that we definitely do not want people to plant.
And people can contact the Urban Forestry Commission. You can go on the city's website at reno.gov and get a hold of the Urban Forestry Commission, because they have all kinds of information that they're more than willing to share with the public. They can help people really determine what they want to put in their yards. So I think that's a great service.
They have a new handout, a new book about the trees in town, the trees you should plant, trees you shouldn't plant, some pictures of trees of what they will look like. It's really an informative piece that they've just completed. The last meeting, last month when I was at their Wednesday meeting, they were handing them out, and they have a lot of information available, just as you said, Sharon, that will help people understand what will be beneficial to them and what won't be.
We're so lucky that we have all these people that volunteer. I don't know how the city would do its job without all the volunteers that we have. It's just incredible.
You're absolutely right. People that spend time on these commissions, Parks and Recreation Commission, which kind of dovetails with Urban Forestry, which I'm also liaison to, Historical Resources Commission. I mean, you're right. There are a lot of things in the city we could not do without the help of the citizens and volunteering their time and being such a big help to the things we do, make them happen.
Thank you so much for being with us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And thank you all for joining us on this Council Connection.